Shields up, Ironbreakers, and welcome to another episode of the Kast. I'm here with FightinCowboy, and today we're going to be talking about Monster Hunter Wilds. How you doing, Cowboy?
Good. Just had a massage, had a burger. Good day.
Man, I haven't even had dinner yet, so yeah, it is what it is. We're recording this very much in advance. I'm not exactly sure how long in advance before this actually even gets released, but we have been playing Monster Hunter Wilds, the review version of the game. Cowboy, you have quite a few more hours on me. How many?
Big 110 at this point.
110 hours of gameplay. I have literally half of you right now. I'm at 54 and a half, almost 55. But the thing is, you've been testing out like all different weapons and stuff, and I've been sticking with literally one weapon, one shelling style, one shelling style, and it's been an interesting journey. So before we begin, we're going to try to keep the first part of the podcast as spoiler free as possible, because obviously a lot of you guys are still getting started, and you're trying to find a little bit something to listen to while you guys are playing the game, maybe even. And if that is the case, the first portion of the podcast, we're going to steer completely away from spoilers, talking about things that weren't announced or shown or all of that. We'll give you like a big warning and like a 5-second countdown before we get into any of that, so that you have plenty of time. Okay, that's good. I'm good. Turn it off, and then you go do your thing, and then you come back later to watch the rest of the podcast. That is the plan. So I guess we'll get started. What are your overall impressions on the game so far?
Overall impressions, overall, I mean, I did love it. Obviously, you don't spend 110 hours just hate playing something. There are certainly issues.
I've done that. I've spent 90 hours hate playing things sometimes.
I don't. The longest I'll play something is like KCD2. Like I really tried to get into that game.
You didn't like KCD2?
It's just too much of a sim for me. I just can't do it. Like I would kill something and they're like, "Oi, that's the King's Wolf, you're going to jail." And I'm like, "It attacked me in the woods." Not in my woods, it wouldn't. You're obviously a wolf thief. I'm like, fuck me, right? Okay. Off to jail, I guess.
It is what it is.
Like, dude, I spent like a 30-minute section of stream blacksmithing. I was like, I just need to make enough money to buy a hammer, right? I smithed up all these hammers. Next morning, the guy was like, "What are you doing? You smell like shit." I'm like, you hired me as your apprentice yesterday. He's like, "What do you want?" And then like sell my things. I get like 6 gold after all this time blacksmithing, and then I like do the bucket wash, and he was like, "Oh, good to see you again." I'm like, what is this change of personality, bro? Like, this is not for me. I just want to. I don't know. I need high fantasy. I can't do sim games like that.
I get you. But
so anyway, yeah. It did have problems. We'll talk about those, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But I love Monster Hunter. I had a blast playing the game. I plan on continuing to play the game more and more. I plan on streaming the game. I plan on doing all the title updates and the inevitable master rank expansion we get.
Oh my god. I think that's one of the things that I'm the most excited for is the master rank expansion, because of all the potential that we have with the maps and stuff. So obviously, I too also absolutely love the game. There are quite a few criticisms that I'm going to have. As of this recording, I haven't recorded my review yet because I also wanted to hash out a couple of things with you, because you've seen way more of the game than I have, because of the fact that family's just been completely destroying my gameplay time recently, which is why I'm only like half the gameplay time of you. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff to talk about. So overall, my impressions is this is phenomenal experience. But how should I put it? The gameplay loop has almost completely changed in the beginning of the game. And I think that's going to be one of the more jarring things that people are going to run into. Because, at least for me, right, I'm used to that gameplay loop that we have in Monster Hunter of, oh, I'm going in, I go to the canteen, I eat my meal, I boot up the quest, and then I go and you hear the horn, you get sent off on the quest, you do your quest, you come back, and the cycle repeats. Sometimes you interact with your farm, you do all of these things. And in this one, it is completely different. But not only that, but like, let's say, for instance, in World, you start and you're doing Ancient Forest for a bunch of quests, and then eventually you get to go to the Wildspire Wastes. In this one, I felt like, okay, you do like 1-2 quests in Windward Plains. Off you go to the Scarlet Forest, and then it's like, okay, 1-2 quests. Off you go to the Oil Well Base, and I was like, whoa, bro, slow down. Yeah. We're going so fast. We're going at breakneck speed.
On that note, you know, because like I wouldn't consider Balahara a hard monster at all.
No.
You know, that thing was farm status in the beta. And as we're doing that, as we're hopping between regions, in my head, I'm like, when do we like... What happened to Balahara?
And those Shaguma.
When do I go back and when do I fight them? When is this? Like you're just adventuring for a while, man.
But that's also
it's very story focused too. It's very like the first time we would go to a region, you know, you're just kind of like going around on the secret, and I would try to wander off. I'd be like, "Ooh, I see something I want to grab," and they're like, "Hunter, don't stray too far." I'm like, "No, it's right.
It's right like, there." Yeah. That happened to me as well. Like they are the very first time you arrive on a spot, or when you're doing one of the story quests, it is very much on rails. It's to the point where there's a bunch of quests, they don't even let you off the sacred. Because I'm like, I just need to get like real quick. I just want to get that one thing. Like there's a mining node right here. I just want to pick nope, can't do it. You're on sacred. You're on rails.
The low rank experience it's very much like baby's first Monster Hunter.
Yeah. Having said that,
I mean, I will say I think for people like like for my weapon guides, for example, that I did back with the beta, I did all the way breakdowns, like, you know, this button does this button does this, you know, explaining like, here's how we look for different extracts with the Kinsect, here's how we yank them out. Like I tried to make it as basic as possible. And I've actually had a lot of people that are like, you know, I've never played these games before, this is so helpful. A lot of the guides I tried to watch were really overwhelming, and you can see that with the game. They are, you know, they know that this is their chance to tap into a whole new player base in a same way, I think, not unlike how Elden Ring kind of put Souls-likes into a larger spotlight. And so there's a lot that's been done to make it significantly more approachable to a fresh audience that has never experienced the game before.
And interestingly enough, I don't think that is entirely to the, what's the contrary of benefit? Why am I spacing?
The detriment?
The detriment, thank you. It's not entirely to the detriment of veterans, but there are going to be some people, obviously, that are going to come in and just going to raffle stomp through everything. But I will say, I got my wish, which if you remember, one of the things that I said multiple times is like, man, I want to cart in low rank. I did cart a couple of times in low rank. That did happen, and I was very happy.
I think I have an idea of what the cart was.
Yeah, we're not gonna bring those up, but yeah, that
we'll save that. Let's save that for the second
spoiler.
half.
Yeah, for the spoiler portion of the podcast. But yeah, a couple of things near the end of low rank did cart me, and I did feel like, okay, now we're talking. Now that's kind of like, you know, as I was going through at the very beginning of low rank, I was like, yeah, this is cool, this is fine, this is okay, but it feels pretty easy. And then when I got towards the latter half of low rank, I was like, okay, now I'm here. Now I'm in. Let's go. Let's friggin' hunt these. And that's actually when I first started properly upgrading my equipment, because up until that point, I was just like full slack mode, like don't care, whatever. Yeah, straight up. But that's kind of like the thing that I feel for a lot of people is going to be the biggest thing they're going to clash with is the structure of it. Because it is very different.
Really,
go ahead.
I'd be curious to talk to more, because like, I mean, in the review Discord, at least, there's quite a few people that they're just not Monster Hunter players in there. And, you know, in general, it seems like they're really enjoying it, but I would love to get like a one-on-one perspective with someone that's not a typical Monster Hunter fan of what their low rank experience was.
Yeah. It's like I've been steering clear of the Discord up until now because I hadn't finished the game yet. And I remember the first day that I joined the Discord, like, I think people were already Hunter rank 50 or something when I get in. I was like, wait, what's going on? Like, people are already like big spoilers. I was like, keep this away from me. I
mean, for the most part, we've been pretty good about using spoiler text and like image spoilers in the Discord, I think. Like
Yeah,
even
but
now,
I'm
I think most people are
scared,
done. I'm
bro.
still,
The second I got there, I start seeing stuff, and I'm like, no, I'm running away.
yeah. No, like any sets I'm posting in there, I'm spoiler tagging, and anytime we're talking about set bonuses or things like that, we're spoiler tagging, and the existence of certain weapons is still spoiler tagged, obviously.
That's good. But yeah, like I was saying, like I think that structure is going to be the first thing people are going to clash with. But the thing is, the structure almost reverts back a little bit, but never really goes back to the whole thing of you eat, you hunt, and then you go back and you repeat, because now the food.
Well, no, so high rank, I think it does, but the eating buffs, like if you eat right, your buff lasts like an hour.
Yeah, lasts.
And as far as I can tell, yeah, that timer pauses when you're not in a hunt.
It doesn't.
So we don't need.
It pauses in the tent.
It does.
It pauses in the tent.
Oh, well, I spend most of my time in the tent.
Yeah,
I'm either in the tent, the tent or Gemma. Those are the two places. With my wife or at my bed. Those are the two places. My character is spending all of his time.
No, but it pauses in the tent, but when you're outside the camp, it keeps going, because that was something that I thought as well for a little bit, because I'm like, man, because I was away from the computer for a while, and I was like, man, I still have my food buff? That's weird, but it's just because I had eaten recently or something. I don't know.
Have you, towards the tail end, did you find yourself using the town or the tent more?
What do you mean by the town or the tent more? To eat?
Well, so like at the start of the game, I was very much, I'd go to Alma, I'd go to Gemma, I would, bust out the barbecue right before I'd go out on a hunt. And then especially towards the tail end, I wouldn't leave the tent. Unless I had to talk to Gemma, I was like, oh, I can change time of day. I can eat here. I can pick my quests here. I can search here. Like I lived in that tent on the tail end of the game. Like second half and beyond, probably.
No, usually
you can do everything in the tent. I just stopped talking to Alma.
Can you craft in the tent? No,
you can't. That's why I said tent or Gemma. Okay, I would go to Gemma for crafting, but aside from that, I'm like, Alma, I'm sorry, baby, I don't have the tent. I don't need to talk to you anymore.
No, usually I talk to Alma because I'm usually hanging out on the outside, because very rarely do I start quests from the tent, because I think it's more interesting to look at the monsters that are in the world and then see, okay, let me see what stuff I need, and let me try to find that monster that I want in the world. And then if it's there, I'll just go to the location and hunt it. If it's not there, then I'll go to Alma and I'll be like, okay, set me up on an optional quest for this monster because I can't find it anywhere else.
See, I think that's because that's the tail end. I was like, I know what I'm hunting. And if it's not there, I'm just going to cycle the weather until it shows up. And so that was a big, I mean, I guess it's just a shift in the point I was at in the game, because it wasn't at the point I'm at, it wasn't about like, I'm going to explore and find. It was like, all right, I got to make these shoes. Where's this guy at? Like, come on, come out.
Yeah, but the thing is, you can get like some really good rewards for hunting them out in the world. It is basically the new investigation system, going out and hunting stuff out into the world, because even if it's there and you see, okay, this monster's got like really good rewards, but you're like, but I don't want to hunt it right this second, then you might want to go in there and be like, okay, create an investigation. And then you can store that for like 3 uses, I think, because I haven't done this too often. And you can store that for 3 uses, and then you can still go and hunt him if you want to. So that you can get like 4 uses out of every monster reward that you find out in the world. So finding the monsters in the world and saving those investigations becomes way more important towards the tail end than almost anything else. Why are you smiling?
So when we were talking about people in the camp, I remembered this one comment from the review Discord, and it was a discussion about Nada in particular. And I'm gonna put it in chat.
Oh no!
We'll bring it up in the spoiler part.
Oh no! Bad things.
It's so funny. It's so funny.
Okay, this is so weird because now we can't give that context to people. That's messed up.
But it's so fucking accurate.
That's so bad, bro. You guys are terrible. Like, why would you do this? But anyway, getting back to it.
So confused why I'm like crying over here.
Getting back to it. So, you know, the structure is
just like me for real, bro.
Stop. He can't control himself.
It's so fucking funny because it's so true.
Like I need to wrangle him. It's like impossible to control. Are you okay?
I'm good. I'm good now. I'm good.
So, like I was saying, structure is going to be different, but towards the tail end of the game, it's going to feel a little bit more familiar. But the concept of food is always going to be different. There is no canteen, which was very disappointing for me because I really wanted to have a canteen.
But we do have the group dinners now.
We do have group dinners. Yeah, that's the
which
thing.
I have problems with them too, because like the other day it was like Maya wants to invite you to dinner, and I show up and she's just sitting there digging the stone out, and I'm like,
it happens to me so many times, so many times.
Thought there was dinner. Looks like you're kind of working right now. Is it a couple hours, or when am I getting fed?
So the way that works now, guys, is like, so you can make the food in your tent just like we did in the beta, and that's going to be probably most of the times whenever you were not a food buff, because like we said, now the food buff lasts for 50 minutes. If you cart, it doesn't end, which is the same way that it worked on the beta, if I remember correctly. So you just keep the food buff throughout the full 50-minute duration. And by the way, we were talking about how to check on that duration. It is L1. You are correct. On the top left-hand corner, it does show up it's a little timer. It's just I got it confused with a different timer that shows up. But yeah.
You want to on the note of food, I just want to call out, I love that we can just eat a well-done steak, max our health, max our stamina. That is just because such a good quality of life change. Because
one of the things that is going to happen to you guys probably often, because we're so used to that whole concept of like, oh, I just eat the food, I go on the hunt, I eat the food, I go on the hunt, that once you remove the step of having to eat the food every time, you're going to get to a point where it's like, well, I don't have to eat the food ever. And then you're in the middle of a quest, and then suddenly it's like, oh, like, my food buff.
What's happening?
Oh, no.
Where's my health at? Sakura, save me. I need to eat the steak.
And then you can just eat a well-done steak and you're good to go. So yeah, that is a massive quality of life thing. I do like that one a lot.
Because that used to be, you would use ancient potions to do that on the fly.
Usually I'd use max potions. Personally, because
max potions wouldn't do.
They don't do the stamina.
Don't do health and stamina.
Yeah, I know. Ancient potions do those, but I would just like do max potions because I'm cheap, and then I'd eat rations or something like that, or well done steak.
Yeah.
But yeah. So the thing is, you eat the food at the tent, or every now and then you're playing through the game, and you're gonna get like a message in the map saying, "Oh, this person wants to invite you for a meal." Which is kind of like what you get early in the game with Yisai or whatever. You get to go to Kunafa Village and they set up a meal for you, which is a cutscene that they've shown a million times where everybody's eating, and that gives you like a 1-hour food buff as opposed to a 50-minute food buff. So every now and then, as you complete quests for the different locations that you're going to go to, they're going to allow you to go and share a meal with them, and then you get a warning, oh, this person wants to share a meal with you, and you go there and they feed you. But like me and Cowboy were saying, a lot of times they'll be like, hey, I want to share a meal with you. And then you go there and there's nothing. There's just
they're in their house, not coming out. And you're like,
it's because
is it being prepared? Should I knock? Do I come in? What's the,
you kind of feel like that awkward guest that like when when you were a teenager and a friend would ask you to come over and then you go to their house. But then you have to ring the doorbell and the parents show up and it's like a little, oh yeah, I'm here to see you. It's a little bit awkward. Yeah. It's kind of the same thing. You get to the city and you're like, so I was told there would be food. And like, can I eat? Like, what's going on?
I haven't eaten in a few hours. I'm pretty hungry. This is based on information y'all provided. So
I think it's because of the day-night cycle, because the NPCs have like that thing where they go to sleep and whatnot. And I think it also has to do with the seasons. I think there are certain seasons where they straight up don't feed you because they're busy doing something else. So it's like,
I'd imagine in Clemency they probably don't, just because everything is crazy.
So I think that sometimes you get the message, but it was sent to you midway through a hunt or something. And then you're like, oh, they're saying they're going to feed me. And in the meantime, Clemency rolls around and you go there and they're just like, food. No, why no food? I just want to eat. Because you always want those buffs because they last longer, and usually they have more buffs than at least I think.
And you're not using your ingredients.
You're not using your ingredients, which considering that I did mostly critical path because I want to save most of the grind for when I do my live stream, I ended up not collecting that many ingredients. So I know where to go get ingredients, but I didn't go and get them because I'm like, I'm do this when it's on my main save. I'm gonna just like gather 1,000 aloes or whatever it is for the herbs and whatnot. I'll gather 1,000.
Well, I don't even think you can. I don't think you can gather.
You can
most ingredients.
I think
you need where. I'm pretty sure you have to trade for them. The stuff you're gathering is traded for the ingredients.
I think there are some that you can collect. Like, I think the PlayStation account even tweeted this the other day. You can get the Eastern honey or whatever it is where Kongalala sleeps. And
I would need to go back through and check because most of mine I get from trading. I just check the trades and I'm like, oh yeah.
No, I think there's some account items that you can pick up along the way, but it's not super obvious. So I do know where to get some of them, but it is not super obvious. And then there is stuff that you can trade because as you progress through the game, the villages that you get like a special NPC that's like, hey, I will trade materials with you, and then different ones.
I didn't even honestly eat like. I remember, World at least, like eating for like black belt or Moxie or guts or whatever. That was huge doing the master rank hunts. And now I'm just like, get my health and stamina up. I'm good to go.
Yeah, I kind of feel the same way. Although I usually try to get the kunafa cheese buff, but I was like, I don't know where to get more kunafa cheese. It's just like
who do I got to kill to get more cheese?
Right? In the beta, I would just go there and people would give me cheese, and now I feel like throughout the whole duration of the game, I've had less cheese than what I had in the beta. I feel like in the beta I had more cheese than
we had so many materials in the beta. They spoiled us.
Yeah.
I was cooking up cheese every hunt. Now it's like, not in this economy.
Yeah. But interestingly enough, throughout the whole thing, I never felt the need, since we're talking about consumables, I never felt the need to go out of my way to gather consumables. It was just like when you're on the sacred doing stuff and you're like, oh, honey thing over there, hook slinger. Oh, honey thing over there, hook slinger. You'd collect all your honey this way, collect some herbs, collect some mushrooms. But I never really went out of my way to go, okay, I need to go out there, get some honey, need to go out there, get some herbs, or anything
I did once per zone. The first time I would unlock a zone, I'd put on a geology botany set. And I would just go around, I'd get all the ore, all the bones, all the honey. I would just do like one quick loop and I'd be like, okay, we're good. And then the only time I went after that in the zone is if I had a wish list and it was like, oh, you need Grachium. And I was like, okay, well, let me go hunt down some more and get Grachium.
Does that show up in your map with like the little orange icon?
I mean, it's just an ore in the map.
Yeah, but does it mark it with the icon for the wish list? Because I know that it does for monster. Yeah, the pin. Because I know it does that for monsters.
No, it doesn't. It won't pin that stuff. But, okay. I mean, you can just go to the filter and
you can highlight it. Yeah, you can highlight it. Yeah, so it's actually way easier to farm stuff now. Like if you guys remember, for previous monster hunters, I did a couple of routes for getting like points and stuff like that for account items and whatnot.
That's not needed at all.
Yeah,
I have over 1 million zenny and 50,000 hunting points, I think.
I don't have that many hunting points, but that's because you've played twice as much as me. I have like 30,000 hunting points, give or take, and I do have 1 million zenny as well.
Yeah, money and hunting points are just a complete non-issue.
And by the way,
you shouldn't run out.
I have almost 1 million zenny without ever selling trade-in items. I've never sold mine.
I've only had one ever. But there's not a whole lot to buy. Like I buy trap tools, and I think that's about it.
Yeah, that was pretty much it.
I mean, obviously, you're crafting your armor. You know, a little bit of zenny here and there.
I think when I first got to high rank, I just went up to the guy and I was like, okay, give me a bunch of large because he was having like the sale thing.
Oh yeah, barrel bombs.
I was like, give me a bunch of barrel bombs that I'm going to upgrade with whatever leftover materials I have into mega barrel bombs, and give me a bunch of trap tools and the usual stuff that you kind of need. I just bought a bunch of those and just equipped it, and boom, good to go, pretty much.
I haven't really been even using my barrel bombs. I'm usually like, you don't get to sleep. I'm killing you before you go to sleep. We're not doing bomb wake ups. You're dying.
When monsters go to sleep, because I'm playing Gunlands, I'll either wake them up with a wyvern fire, or I will wake them up with a slam. I'll just like get on sacred, jump, slam.
So if you do SOS and it's NPCs, you go to order monster sleeping, you start putting out barrel bombs. They will also put out,
they also put out barrel bombs,
which is pretty cool.
They also, speaking of NPCs, they also have a tendency to instantly try to get mounts, instantly try to break wounds, instantly to the point where I was like,
you can turn all that off.
Yeah, though. I know, but initially I didn't touch it. I was like, I'll leave it at default. But the first time I saw, I think it was Olivia, she steals a mount, and I was like, wait a minute. I don't want you doing that because you don't know how to mount. You don't know how to give me 3 wounds out of that mount. I
can't even get 3 wounds anymore. I can get 2. If I go for a third, I'm getting just a force damage knockdown.
Yeah, I've noticed that as well. Most monsters.
I think it's a weapon strength thing. I think once you're at a certain
because
threshold,
I'm not even using the weapon to break it. I'm just using like regular stabbing. It's just like
maybe it's a high. Oh.
Yeah, just like even regular
so I used
stabs.
To go weapon, jump, weapon, jump, weapon, jump, weapon, jump, weapon. I used to get 3. Now it's like as soon as I get a second wound up, I'm popping the first, and then I'm going into my rotation.
Yeah, I think that when you get to high rank, the move is getting 2 wounds. Even though in my mounting thing, I said for the beta, I said like, oh, you guys should get 3 wounds. Like, I think when you get to high rank, you're probably looking at 2 best. I've actually had a monster recently. I wasn't even able to get 1. I knocked him down without getting 1. Yeah. I was like, oh, okay. That was not worth it at all to do this mount, but okay. But yeah, so consumables is something that you're not going to have to worry about all that much. And this is one of those things that I would like to worry a little bit more about consumables. I know that you're probably going to be on the other side of the spectrum, right? You're like, I don't care about consumables.
My general view on it is, at the end of the day, it's high rank, and our most recent experiences were master rank, where that stuff is a lot more important. You know, like armor and demon drugs, never used a single one. I know it's necessary.
Yep.
So I'm just letting it all stockpile, because I'm sure with master rank it will be.
As a matter of fact,
so until then, I'm just like, man, let it sit. You know, it's fine.
I don't think I even have both the charms.
They're probably in your inventory. They just showed up in mine. I know what quest does give you them, but you know, usually the post quest rewards, I'm just like, cool.
Yeah, you just like skip through it.
Yeah. And then at some point somebody was like, do these exist? And someone was like, yeah, they do. And I was like, wait a minute. And I went into my inventory, and they were just sitting in there. I'm like, you get into my normal. What
I remember putting the armor one in, but I don't remember even getting the other one. So it's probably just sitting in my inventory somewhere as well.
Sitting in there, yeah. If you did all the side quests, sitting in there.
No, I actually didn't. Like I said, I kind of critical path a lot of it because I want to save a lot of the exploration for the stream.
I just recently, after I finished all 30 of my sets, I was like, okay, let me get these side quests done. These should be done. So now I'm at,
I imagine it didn't take you very long.
No, I haven't like done crown hunting yet, but like from a like content perspective, I've done everything the game has at this point.
Yeah, I haven't done
now I can review it. Not at all. Now I can review it. Experienced.
I finished the game and I fought the hardest stuff. I haven't killed one of the harder monsters yet. But I can pretty much do it, but like it's not like killing that monster is going to change anything about how I feel about the game or whatever. So it's not a big deal. So I guess before we move any more forward, we should talk about the visuals a little bit, the performance situation and all of that just real quick. In terms of visuals, we were told that there's going to be an Ultra HD pack or something that you're going to be able to get better textures.
4K texture pack.
Yeah, 4K texture pack. Yeah. So that's something that we haven't gotten to try out yet. So we're still just playing with the default stuff. And what I've noticed is in the cinematics where stuff has actually happened, like, you know, proper cinematics, I think stuff looks fine for the most part. Even when it's fully zoomed in, you know, the textures don't look quite as detailed as you kind of would expect. But because it's in motion, all that looks good. But when you have those scenes where it's just like a little bit of dialogue and there's just like camera shots of your character and the other character, I feel like in those situations, the game looks a little bit worse than I would have expected in terms of visuals.
I think visuals, I mean, so I had everything, every setting that could be cranked to max was cranked to max. I'd say the visuals looked really good on my side, with the exception of the mesh quality issue. Should we want to talk about that?
Yeah, sure.
So there's a issue, bug, whatever you want to call it. But mesh quality has 3 settings: highest, high, and medium. And like even in the preview, going from either of those to medium, you can see, you know, suddenly the guy, or whoever our leader is, our version of Admiral in this game, you can like see it suddenly looks like he's bald almost. But if those textures are high or highest, occasionally the mesh on a monster would slip. So I would be fighting something. And it happened a lot with Leviathans. I first noticed it with I always get these names mixed up. Is it Uthduna? Is that the
yeah, Uthduna is the water guy.
Yeah. I was chasing it, and then I see this like giant triangle shooting off of its back and like dancing around in the sky, and I'm like, what the fuck is that? And then I like turn away and it's gone, and I turn back and it's there, and I turn away and it's gone, and I turn back and it's there, and I look down and it's gone, and I'm like, what the fuck is happening?
So it
happened with a couple other monsters later,
yeah.
But somebody in the Discord was like, oh, turn your mesh settings down to medium, and it'll prevent that. So like, I mean, I captured footage of this, sent it to Capcom, and they're like, we are working on this. I'm like, okay, please do. That's
before we go any
viscerally
further,
distracting.
Very important thing. What I mean, you said you cranked everything to max. Are you using DLSS or are you using native resolution?
The DLSS quality.
DLSS quality.
I'm gonna be honest. There's no reason to use native resolution. There's not.
I don't like thinking about it like that.
It's not.
It annoys
like, honestly,
me.
With DLSS 4, we get a quality that's so comparable to what we were going to get native anyway. Like most of the time, you're not going to be able to tell the difference, and you're going to get way better frame rate from it anyway.
Yeah, but it's like I just don't like that thing. Or you're using frame gen as well, right?
Sometimes yes, sometimes no. So my computer, I have an HDMI that will run under the door of the office and connect to the TV in the bedroom. And so like when I would get done recording, I was like, oh, I want to hunt up a couple monsters. I would do a few hunts while I was laying in bed before going to sleep. And playing it on the TV, I had to have frame gen on, just to, I don't know if it was like a, you know, because it's basically my primary monitor is mirrored to the TV. It's not a separate output.
Yeah.
And so with that mirrored setup, frame gen made everything nice and smooth. But on the PC, I usually played with it off, because if it was on and I tabbed out to say something in Discord and there was like a transition, like, you know, starting a quest, going into the tent, whatever the case was, that would end up usually resulting in a crash. Now, I don't know if that's something with the game not being happy about me alt-tabbing while frame gen is active. That's certainly possible. But regardless, it got to a point where I was like, all right, if I'm playing on PC, frame gen is off. If I'm going into the TV, I'll turn it on, and then I'll turn it off the next day when I'm recording.
It's just, I find it very interesting that you're having all those issues on NVIDIA with crashes and meshes going out of place and whatnot. None of that happened on my end. I've been playing on the 7900 XTX, and it's been like, in terms of issues, it's been pretty much flawless. Like, you're probably getting,
I don't know what.
You're probably getting better performance. You're probably getting better performance than me, though, I would imagine.
Yeah, and to be fair, this is like, we're going to have, you know, at launch, there will be a new driver, I'm sure, that's better optimized.
I mean, for you, I'm sure.
Yeah, for me, for sure.
not for me.
Yeah,
AMD's like, we don't care. None of our business.
Yeah, I do not have that driver right now. So this may, you know, it may be an issue
it might be
that is alleviated at launch, but, you know, I can only speak to
like,
what I experienced.
AMD's going to be like, you're lucky if we don't release a driver that breaks it when it launches. Those are like the expectations for us here on Team Red. It's like, listen, if you don't touch the driver, it's working good. Just don't touch it, okay? Last time you guys touched drivers, I couldn't play Monster Hunter World for like months, okay? Yeah, it was really bad. Like, you couldn't play Monster Hunter World on DirectX 12. You had to go down to DirectX 11. Otherwise, it would crash every single time. Yeah. But for Wilds, it's been pretty flawless. It hasn't crashed once. In my 55 hours, I haven't had one crash. In terms of graphics, I hadn't had to change anything. The issue that you're talking about with the triangles and shit, none of that, the mesh, none of that happened to me. I play with pretty much everything maxed out except the volumetric fog because I just don't like it. So I put that to low, and if I could turn it off, which I think there's like some that you can do in the files or whatever, I'm like, no, I'm not touching that.
Probably like an any edit or some shit.
Any stuff that you can probably do. But like I was like, no, I just want to fiddle with the default settings, and everything's maxed out, FSR quality. And I don't think, like I was saying, when you're zoomed in those dialogue scenes, I don't think it looks as good as it should, which is why I was like surprised when you said, well, for me, it looked fine. So it must just be, that is probably where DLSS is just way better than FSR, and it's going to look better for you. But hey, at least for me,
I'm curious at launch. I'm curious to see like the 4K texture pack.
Yeah.
And the latest driver, if I still experience those issues, because I think that'll be a big
So
big point of interest.
I want to do more performance testing now. On my end, I ended up using frame generation. I was getting above 60 FPS most of the time without frame gen. So frame gen pushes it up to like 100 most of the time. I was like at 100 FPS.
Yeah.
Sometimes if something was particularly demanding,
it was 80. I think I was 80, and then with frame gen, I was getting like, frame gen, I was getting like 110, 120.
Okay, yeah.
Without frame gen, I was sitting around 80.
I mean, but the 4090 is going to outperform the 7900 XTX every day of the week, so it's to be expected. But like, I was
outperforming the 5090, considering they're all lighting on fire. So.
I feel bad for people that want to get a GPU right now because it's just so ridiculous.
Trash at the moment.
I've been watching Gamers Nexus, and I've been watching like Jay's 2 Cents, and you know everybody that usually reports on this type of stuff, and everybody's saying the same. Like, this is some garbage. Like, Nvidia is purposefully holding back cards to drive up the cost, and the prices of these cards just ballooned into infinity, and the GPU market is just one big crapshoot right now. So
it's
it
the
really
worst
sucks.
it's ever been.
Yeah. No, I think that the crypto boom back during COVID, I think that was way worse. Like, you're talking about, for instance, I wanted to get like a cheap Nvidia card, and if you wanted to get the 2060, it'd be like $600. Like, you're crazy.
See, that's more than twice. I got 30. I don't know if it was a 3090 or a 3080, but whichever one it was, I got that at MSRP. But I was
very lucky.
I was talking to a dude. So this was kind of a cool circumstance. This guy, I think he was based out of Georgia, and he mainly did like firearm sales. And since he already had his business established, he was like, fuck it, I'll set up as a GPU distributor. And he started getting stock. And in his Discord, he would set it up, and like people would put in like a queue. Like I'm putting a queue in, and as they came in, he went through the queue, and each person got like one queue. He verified, name, address, all that shit. So if stuff got sold to scalpers, he was banning them from the Discord. And it was like, the GPU distribution system. He was just going down the list, selling shit at MSRP to people in the Discord.
What a nice guy, dude.
I'm like, you're a fucking G.
That guy's a bro. Shout out.
Yeah. And then the 40 series, I was like, I'm not dealing with this shit. I need an overhaul. So I just went power GPU.
Yeah.
Also got at MSRP at that point. But honestly,
you've been very lucky with that stuff.
Yeah. Seeing the problems with the 50, I'm kind of like, my 40 is still trucking.
Yeah,
it will be for a while.
I wouldn't touch it. Yeah, if I had a 40,
I might upgrade my processor soon. I mean, I'm on a 13900 KS, which like isn't bad at all, but it's more like I'd say instead of upper, it's like the high end of upper mid.
Yeah,
where it's at right now, like it's just starting to fall out of the upper tiers.
I think it's
so that'll get upgraded.
When it
4090 is chilling.
When it comes to, I mean, unless if you're just doing an upgrade, you have to go Intel again. But yeah,
well, if you were, see, that's what I'm saying. I could do an overhaul and go to AMD. I mean, I'd have to swap out the board.
I would recommend Ryzen is really good, dude.
I mean, I used to have Ryzen. My last rig was Ryzen. I had no issues with it. Like I've had Intel, and then I went to Ryzen, and then I went back to Intel. And I'll probably go back to Ryzen for the next one. I mean, I've gone back and forth between them. Usually, at my decision for what CPU I'm going to get is usually when I'm building a rig, I try to future-proof as much as possible. So when I was building this, the 1300 or 13900 KS was just what was posting the best scores. And I was like, all right, let's go for that.
Usually the way that I do it is I just see, okay, which one's the most expensive one? Okay, now give me like 2 or 3 prices below that, and now let me check the benchmarks on this. Looks good. This is the one I want. It's like usually that's the way that I build it. I just feel like, okay, what's the most expensive one? It's this one. All right, let's go a little bit below. And if I'm doing the streaming rig like I did the other day, let's go like 4 or 5 below. Then let's go for a really cheaper one because it doesn't need to be super beast. But
if I was like that, if I was just playing, I wouldn't even. But you know, I'm single rig setup, so I'm like, I want as much power as possible to just do this all on one rig. And you know,
but like,
this is what it is. It's part of the job, though. You know, I had a friend. He was like, "I'm building my first PC. What do you think? Should I get like thinking of getting like a 4090?" I'm like, "For what are you playing?" He's like, "Oh, I'm playing like this."
At what resolution?
He's like, "Oh, probably like 1440." I'm like, "Yeah, no, you don't need a fucking 4090.
The 4080 tops and 4080 is like high end for that stuff. I would imagine for 1440p.
I'm like, you do not need a 1440. Just playing casual games, not even the latest shit, and you think you need a 4090? Like, no.
The 4090 is way like the thing is, even for me, I refuse to buy the 4090 because for you guys get a price over there in the US. That's probably going to be changing because of like the tariffs and shit. I would imagine shit's going to start getting more expensive. But for us here in Portugal, like it's almost like you get your MSRP and then you multiply it by 2, and that's kind of like the price that we end up getting over here.
Tax.
Yeah, the Portuguese tax where it just completely shreks us. But
this is why you gotta fucking set up your channel as an S corp, make it a tax write-off.
Yeah, but like, I
mean, it's a business expense. It's a business expense. I don't know how taxes work in Portugal, but like, I mean, as this is now my primary income, like, I buy a new monitor, that monitor's getting written off. I buy a new PC, I buy a key light, all that shit, it's getting written off. Like, those are operating expenses for a business that's pulling in more revenue than, you know, the cost. Like, even then, my operating costs are, you know, as a YouTuber, they're pretty fucking low, because unless you're paying for like a full-time editor or staff,
which
I would say your profit margin, I'm just solo shipping this, so my profit margins are like 90%, which even then from a write-off, they're like, oh, you had 90%, you know, net revenue this year, great.
Yeah,
like, I'm looking for shit to write off because I don't have enough. But yes, I need a new PC. I need a write-off this year.
Yeah, but I'm not on the same like income bracket as you are.
I mean, it depends. Like I also don't know how Portuguese taxes work. It could be very different.
Yeah, but regardless of that, getting back to the performance thing, it's running great on my 7900 XTX. Now, I do have a couple of more machines that I've been trying to test it on. I haven't done like in-depth testing, but I've played quite a bit on my 6900 XT, which I've also been running at 4K on a 6900 XT, but in there I'm not using FSR quality, I'm using FSR balanced, and I bumped the shadows down just like a smidge. Instead of highest, put it like to high or whatever, and far away shadows I put that to low, because you're not going to notice a big quality difference. And between the settings that I've changed between that computer and this one, I don't notice much of a visual quality difference, and the game is running pretty much same performance on my other GPU, also running at 4K. And I'm just like, it's pretty good. But again, at the end of the day, a 6900 XT is still considered a high-end card. I'm not sure, depending on, you know, what people are doing with these. But I am also using FrameGen. It is important to mention I am using FrameGen. I haven't tested it without FrameGen on the other rig. The biggest problem with frame generation on AMD FSR is that, you know, the silhouette that you get when you're behind the monster?
Yeah.
That looks super choppy.
The white outline?
Yeah, that's where the frame generation just goes to crap, and you're like, oh, yeah, we are using frame I can tell. It looks really bad. So like whenever you have the silhouette mode on, that's when the frame generation illusion completely breaks down. You're like, oh, that is not smooth at all. It's kind of rough. But that's the only part where you at least where I personally have experienced visible, I
haven't noticed that on NVIDIA, at least.
Yeah.
So.
And then the other GPU that I tried it on was on the Intel Arc B500.
Talking about that. It was fun.
I was actually trying it right before the podcast. It was running at like 40 something FPS because you can't even do frame generation on the Intel upscaling. So I was using Intel upscaling balanced, and it was still getting like 40 or something. So it's probably not super well optimized for Intel GPUs. So I can't say that I would recommend that. But then again, that GPU is like one of the cheapest GPUs that I could get at the time that allowed me to do AV1 encoding. It was like 300 bones. So I was like, the purpose of this GPU is AV1 encoding. I don't actually care about this thing playing video games. But yeah, if you have an Intel Arc, you're going to be in a rough spot performance-wise. And I want to test it on my 2060, which is the previous streaming rig that I had, but I haven't been able to boot that rig for 3 days. So I replaced it just in time because it's pretty much dead. I can't boot it up at all because that motherboard got like some issue. Down. Yeah. It got like an issue from some power surge or some shit, and the motherboard's like just
to sell it to your kid, and then when it doesn't work, be like, "This is your first lesson in life that things don't always work out your way." Get fucked, idiot.
My kid is 10.
What? Why would you?
Interestingly enough, I do want to do something on that computer with my kid. I've told my kid, "Listen, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna take this whole thing apart, and then you're gonna have to build it back up yourself."
That'd be cool.
Yeah, the problem is he's going to build it back up and it's still not going to boot because the motherboard is broken. He's going to be, "Dad, why doesn't it work?" "Don't worry about it, son." Yeah, at least you learned how to build it. You did it right. Don't worry. It's just a broken computer. But yeah, I'm going to have him do like thermal paste and everything. Like I'm going to take the cooler off. I'm going to tear that whole thing apart. Because, if he breaks it, it's not the end of the world because it already doesn't boot. Like, what do I care? Oh. It's done. But yeah, that's the situation on performance. Things aren't perfect. Hopefully they can improve on it. Basically, the performance that you can expect is, I would imagine, very close to what you got with the benchmark tool, which is why they did the benchmark tool. I haven't noticed it's major differences.
This is an interesting thing that came up in the review Discord, but there were some people that were like, World ran so much better. And there were a lot of people, myself included, that chimed in and like, no. We will not engage in world revisionism launch performance because there were also plenty of fucking issues when World launched.
Yeah, it's like I didn't experience those at the time because I was just like, no, my main platform's PlayStation. I just kept playing on PlayStation, even though I did like test performance and it was running okay on my system, 2060. I was like, oh, I can run it at like 1440p or 1080p or whatever, and it kind of runs. It's okay. It's not perfect, but I have like a crappy graphics card, so it's to be expected. But I do remember seeing after the fact, like a lot of people were coming in and basically downvoting the reviews of World because of performance. And Iceborne, the reason why Iceborne sit on mix for so long was actually because of performance issues. So both World and Iceborne had brutal performance issues on release on PC. I just didn't experience those because I was playing on PlayStation. That's the thing. But yeah, I do see that a lot. A lot of people are like, oh, it doesn't even look as good as World. And
no, yeah, it absolutely looks as good as World. That's just people being fucking grouchy.
It's because
there were, bro, you can like, you go up and you binocular monsters during like day cycles and shit, and you can watch the fucking dilation of their pupils change in real time.
The problem with
that level of detail, just, I mean, and it's a level of detail you're probably never going to look at.
Yeah.
To be fair. But realistically, World didn't have that level of detail. World also didn't have dynamic effects, like you fire off your gun lance and suddenly half the forest is on fire. Like that was not a thing in World.
Yeah, but the thing is, you can see that on your 4090. A lot of people, they're playing on much lower settings. That's why they're saying World looked better. Yes, yeah. World did look better for you. I get it because you're playing on lower settings now, and therefore, yeah. But the biggest thing to me is you cannot compare the Ancient Forest to the Windward Plains. Like the sheer amount of small monsters that are there, and the fact that there's, is it 4 or 5? I don't even know how many monsters can be in a map, but there's more
usually
monsters.
I think it's four to five on a map.
Yeah,
shit tons of small monsters, all the endemic life that's running around,
and the interactivity that you have with the map, which there's more traps in here than there are in World, and all of that is being tracked in real time. It's like it's just a completely different game.
The endemic life. There's a whole endemic life hunt that I went on that you had to hunt this thing down at a specific time of day, and it would run from you. And like I had to
they
track
did
this
that one in
thing
the
down
beta
on my secret. Yeah.
They did that one in the beta. But so yeah, performance is not, I would say, is not as good as we'd like. At least that's the way that I still feel about it. Performance is not as good as I'd like. I'd like performance to be better. It is playable, but your mileage will vary wildly depending on your processor, depending on all of that stuff. Like me and Cowboy, we have streamer and content creator rigs. It's gonna brutally overpower it and whatnot and run it pretty decently. But people that have mid-level rigs, they're going to struggle quite a bit to run it at a decent frame rate without some proper, fiddling with settings and all of that stuff. And you're going to have to understand what are the settings that impact me more. And they do try to help with like the thing that says, okay, this impacts your VRAM, this impacts your GPU, this impacts your CPU. Yeah. So you can kind of like play around with those and try to get as best as you can. But on release, it's still not as good as I personally would like. That's kind of like where I'm at when it comes to performance. Since we're on performance, animations look phenomenal. I think. Yeah. I mean, the Monster Hunter team and animations is always like fantastic. So good visuals, like I said, except for when we're in the dialogue scenes. I feel like, I don't know, when it zooms in on the dialogue scenes, the armor doesn't look as detailed as it might. That might be an FSR thing. Maybe that will be improved. Maybe the texture pack will massively improve that. We'll see. But that also means we have to retest performance with that texture pack because we didn't have it during the review period. So, yeah. Audio-wise, how are you feeling?
Audio was I mean, I'm not like an audiophile, to be fair, but I thought the audio was great.
Yeah.
I think the call-outs, I will say the one thing with the audio that I didn't expect in the beta, I was like, I'm not listening to this fucking cat. You're meowing. And I put him on meow mode. And very quickly, I put him back to speaking because the cat will like say things that are relevant to the hunt. And I'm like, who the fuck is she talking to? And I'm like, talking to the cat. And then I'm like trying to look down and read subtitles while dodging Arkfell that's trying to slam me. And I'm like, all right, I ain't got time for this. You gotta speak English. I need to know what the fuck you're doing. I can't read subtitles and dodge monster attacks at the same time. It's too much.
Yeah. But yeah, I think that the audio is really good. I think the soundtrack is friggin' phenomenal, as they always are when it comes to Monster Hunter. So we've went through visuals, audio, performance. I guess really quickly, just touch on story without getting into spoilers.
I mean, let me go. Hang on. I'm gonna click my list of things I like to touch on in reviews.
Yeah.
Gameplay, world design, story, graphics, audio, length and price, bugs and performance, overall rating.
We'll get to the gameplay portion. I just want to really touch up really quick on story. So here's what I'll say on story without getting into spoilers. It goes in a bold direction that I didn't expect, and it is a direction that I'm pretty sure is not going to land with a lot of people.
It's not going to land with vets. New players that are unfamiliar with Monster Hunter are so that the big thing, without going into details, the low rank is essentially a story campaign. There is dialogue, there's cutscenes, there is steady paced progression. Whereas World, your story was, oh, here's the next thing, go hunt it. Oh, here's the next thing, you go hunt it. And now the events of these hunts are tied directly into story elements in terms of how they affect the world. It is undone. It hasn't been done before in Monster Hunter, where it's like an actual, like a story campaign you could make a video series on. So it's very different. Now, once you beat low rank, it gets more to what Monster Hunter vets are used to. But until then, it's, kind of how we said near the start. It's very much, there's parts where it feels
the structure is the structure is very different, and it does feel on the rails. Like particularly the ones where you're on top of Sacred and you're not even allowed to leave Sacred.
You cannot dismount. You are on Sacred. There is no dismount. You will follow the NPCs where they're going, and then things will happen.
Yeah, but that's not even what I was talking about. I was talking about the actual story itself, the places where it goes. Is definitely...
Oh yeah, there's some.
Yeah,
there's gonna be some the lore nerds for Monster Hunter.
Oh yeah,
field day. We'll just say that.
The historians are going to have a field day figuring out some of the stuff, and some of the terms used are also. We'll talk about that a little bit further ahead, but I will say something There is a certain I haven't figured out yet whether or not I like what they did with the story, which is interesting. Like I'm still debating in my head, but do I like this? But I will say I respect it because of the fact that they're like, yep, we're doing this and it's happening and this is exactly what happened. Like
all I'll say about the story is at the end of the story, there was we're building up to the pivotal story moment. And there's lots of discussions, and I'm like, what the fuck are they talking about? There's an obvious solution here. There's an obvious solution. What the fuck are they talking about? And then we finally get to the culmination, and my hunter just has a I am him moment. And I'm like, there we go. There we fucking go. This is the problem to the solution. That one moment, I was like, yep, that's it. That's what I'm fucking talking about. Let's go.
It is very good. That particular moment is very good. But like I said, I don't see the story landing with everyone for sure. That I think that there's a lot of people.
There's going to be a lot of discussion.
Oh yeah,
for sure.
There's that. But like I said, I think that it's interesting for them to just really say, "Yep, we're doing this. Yep, it is what it is."
What I will say, I really liked all the NPCs this time. I liked all the NPCs. Werner is a little weird at times. I think Werner. I think he's supposed to be like autistic. I think he is like he obsessed with trains autistic, not like Rain Man autistic. Yeah. But like because there's even dialogue with him where he's like, I don't understand. I don't get emotions across to people. I don't know how to convey that. And I'm like, okay, that's interesting. And then you got the one the kind of scatterbrain dude that's just like wandering around. And then the Woodwoods. The
Woodwoods are awesome, dude.
Djibouti.
Djibouti. We want Djibouti.
The best part is the one that you rescue, and I don't know how much like investigation hunting you've done, but bro is constantly still getting caught. So like every time I'm running through that area, he's like, once again, what's on adventure? Shall it? And I'm like, again, dude? The fourth time this week. Stop going near the spider. We've talked about this. Get out of there. Go back home.
So I've ignored him every time I went past him. He's just like,
oh, it just takes a slinger shot. Rescue the poor guy.
Because, see, this is a problem that we have to talk about, which is sacred, right? I'm on autopilot. I just
Monster Hunter Uber. Yeah.
I just hop on Sacred, and it's like I don't care what else is happening around me. So every now and then I remember hearing his voice, and I was like, "Is that a bug?" Like I'm pretty sure I've done this quest already.
No, he's just up there about to turn into a snack, and we're just leaving him behind. I don't know. I don't think anything actually happens to him. But yeah,
nothing happens to him. He's fine. Yeah, he's hanging out. He's fine. No, but
I like out at some point, I guess.
I like that guy a lot. He's a ton of fun. But yeah, let's talk about Sacred, and we should talk about the two companions actually, because this is going to be a big thing. Sacred, the level of convenience.
Wirebug 2.0.
It's funny because I was talking to Gaijin the other day, and I think that you told him something about Wirebug 2.0 or something like that, and he was like, it's more like Wirebug 4.0 because it doesn't have any cooldown.
Yeah, it's Sacred Recovery is basically game breaking.
Yeah, it's because I remember when I first played it. No, it was before I even played it. I think I had a conversation with someone. I forget exactly what was the topic because I've done like God knows how many podcasts. But they told me, I was like, oh yeah, there's going to be like some type of limitation to you using Sacred. And I think that the limitation they were talking about is the number of times that Sacred can dodge automatically. So like when you're on Sacred and, he kind of like dodges attacks and stuff.
Yeah.
I think there's a limit on the number of times you can do that. But the number of times that you can pick you up off the ground, yeah, there's no limit. You can just like keep
Sacred. He's snatched me up from the jaws of death so many times, man.
I actually don't use it. I very rarely use it for that. But the thing that I was talking about is just the level of convenience that he gives you in ferrying you through the map.
When I am farming, I don't dismount. I'll tag one mound.
Yeah.
Go to that ore, grab it. Tag the next one. Go to that ore, grab it. Tag the next one. Go to that ore, grab it. There's no reason to get off Sacred unless for bones. Bones I'll get off, or like big fossils I need to grab. But Otherwise, I'm just chilling.
Yeah,
Secret
but
knows the way.
the thing is, what I've noticed is that I don't know the maps at all. If I think about it, I've played the game for 54 hours. I know very little about the maps because
I've learned them pretty well, but only because I did all the endemic life hunting. So that, like, you know, you're going through the trenches to find some of that stuff. So that really helped to learn the maps and like find all the areas for the camps and whatnot. Which there's a lot of spots you can have camps, but if you're sacred Ubering everywhere, you'll never find them. You need to like take time and actually like explore and find, because there's a lot of like little tucked away alcoves where you can put a camp in. That's like a really nice spot that's real far away from everything else. But if you're on the sacred, you're never going to even see it.
And here's an interesting thing: if you're on sacred and you see a camp, you need to actually walk over to it for it to
walk
become
over and be like, oh,
in order
okay.
that you can
It's a
place
good
it
spot.
down. Yeah. Because I remember at one point I kept going through this spot as I was hunting. I was like, I saw that thing last time. I'll do the look thing again. And then on another hunt, it's like, oh, it's telling me to look over there again. I guess I have to physically walk over there with sacred, and then I can start using the thing. But yeah, I do think that, I don't know, I'm conflicted on how useful sacred is. And I know that there's going to be people be like, oh, here comes Boomer Rurikhan, blah, blah. But like I said, I don't know the maps at all. Like, I've spent 55 hours in the game, and if you take sacred away from me and the boss runs away, I'm going to have to like follow scout flies, but I'm going to be like, you know, struggling a little bit to find the bosses without sacred.
Yeah, I mean, it's the convenience level is certainly unmatched.
Yeah. It's very convenient. And the
like hunting, honestly, playing the game with no sacred and with no Palico would honestly be a completely different experience, I think.
Yeah.
Which I'm kind of tempted to do that for the stream playthrough, just to see how different everything feels when I don't have sacred recovery and I don't have, because do you want to move on to Palico? The Palico is basically, well, we can't talk about everything because we can't talk about late game stuff.
Yeah.
We could later, but I'll sum it up with the Palico is basically cheat mode.
Yeah.
The Palico is so insanely busted now in terms of the utility it offers you. It's outrageous.
Let's not call it cheat mode, because like we've established at the start of the
people
podcast,
will take that
there's going to be a lot of newcomers that are going to be joining the game. And, you know, I think it's cool you guys use everything at your disposal. Hell, I'm probably still going to use the Palico. I mean, I used the Palico the whole first playthrough.
A better way to describe it would be, if you're a veteran and you're going in and you are feeling this is way too easy for me, leave your Palico at camp and you will feel an immediate change in the difficulty of the hunts.
I am considering not using Palico in my streams, because I do feel like the thing is with the level of I think they made him too good. Because, you know, like in World, people will complain like, oh, my Palico doesn't always do the things the way that I'd like or whatever. Or I have to give him the order 50 times and not super responsive, blah, 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 blah. In here, you don't have to tell him everything, and he does everything for you.
Yeah.
It's insane. He heals you like super fast. The thing about him removing like the statuses and stuff does it like super fast. Him putting down traps. Usually every time you get the skull, he will put down a trap.
Yeah, he's really good about it.
So it's like, if you want to capture, you don't even have to worry about trapping, because he'll friggin' do it for you. It's actually insane. So yeah, the Palico, super powerful, super useful. And so if you're looking to be a little bit more challenged, you might want to consider leaving him behind, which is something, like I said, I'm considering doing that for my streams. And then the combination of both of these with the sacred ferrying you everywhere and saving you from the jaws of death, and the Palico on top of it with the heals and all of that, it does get to a point where the game does feel easier than I would have expected.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's absolutely easier in low rank. It's not even like a debatable question. No, but it is. The
thing is, I don't think it's easier than Rise Village. I don't think this low rank is easier than Rise Village.
I'd say comparable, but Rise Village is
yeah.
It's village, you know. Village is not the if you're a veteran, you know, you don't play village, you play hub.
Yeah, but like
you do village to experience it, but yeah, I'd say
to get the unlocks.
Comparable to that. Well, no, all right, I would say comparable, but I think Palico and Sacred are, I think they do add a additional level of ease compared to Palamute and Palico.
Yeah, I agree.
If we were to play Rise without those and play Wilds without those, I think they'd probably be comparable. But I think the Palico and Sacred utility kind of push it over the edge, because you have near infinite recovery from your Sacred. You have all the crazy utility the Palico is bringing. The Palico healing alone, like I can go through most hunts and I don't need to, unless I'm just like face tanking stuff, I don't need to put away my weapon to heal. I'll get low and I'm just like, give it 20 seconds. Palico's got me.
Yeah, I would actually say if you take away the companions, I would say that Wilds is harder. Like, not like super harder than Rise Village, but I would say that it is harder. So
I mean, it's hard to say, because like in Rise we have all of our power moves.
Yeah.
Which can certainly steamroll stuff, but at the same time, wound breaks and the stagger potential that comes along with them is also very game changing.
Yeah. But so that's the situation with difficulty. And then in terms of the actual gameplay experience, the actual hunting experience, I think that this is some of the best monster hunt. It feels so good, dude. The hunting action, like I find myself constantly thinking, oh my God, I just did something so cool right there.
There's a lot of environmental interactions. Like there's one for Uthduna where like when it's running around in the water, you can drop like
rocks,
a whole arpeolago on it and just, and you're like, get out of there, you wet bitch. And you just start wailing at it again. Like there's a lot to the hunt. So if the best way to describe it is honestly, if you can stick through the more on rail story portions, the core gameplay, the hunt, which I think is what most veterans come for, the hunt is satisfying. I mean, like I said, I have 110 hours. Like the hunt will keep you engaged.
Oh, absolutely. Like I said, I have 55 because I critical pathed it, but it actually took a lot of control to critical path, because I was like, every time I'd fight a new monster, I'm like, oh, I want to craft this full armor set. And I'd be like, but I shouldn't. I don't have enough time. I need to put out the review and do like 1 or 2 guides or something. So we're gonna just like keep trucking along.
My time is, so 110 is all side quests have been done. All the endemic life and fishing quests are done. Everything has been hunted into oblivion. I have 30 separate sets, at least one for each weapon. Some weapons get, like Gunlance, I have 3 sets. Hunting Horn, I have 3 sets, depending on if it's like I have an offset, a healing horn, and then a damage horn. 5 of those sets are elemental switch axes, 5 are elemental charge blades, 2 elemental bows, a light bowgun, 2 heavy bowgun setups, and then most of the others are just singulars. Like I have like 1 greatsword set, 1 charge blade, 1 insect glaive, 1 lance. But I've cleared out. I also have a farming set, but that I don't count that in my head count. But I'm at the point where it's, where I'm at in the game, my progression is now late game stuff that I can't talk about at this portion of the podcast. Yeah. And just helping people with SOSs. That's about it.
Yeah, I did. It was funny. The other night I tried doing an SOS because I was like, oh, I finished the game. Let me see the multiplayer. We were trying to set up a multiplayer session, but you were doing something else. I was like, oh, well, I guess I'll just see if I do an SOS. I landed in an SOS from Gaijin. And then I got DC'd.
Oh God!
So it's like,
I've had the multiplayer experience has been, I'd say for the most part, pretty good. I notice I have way more connectivity. Like I was playing with Jono for a hunt and they got disconnected, but they're over in Europe. And then I joined an SOS on a dude that was Japanese, and there was definitely some like latency where like, his hunter would be like, and I'm like, oh, okay, But the main person I've been playing with is Lord. He's another creator, and me and him hunted a shit ton, and it was always super smooth. We were hunting everything. Everything was smooth. We jump in, smash monsters. We were speed running monsters. Like, how fast
did you do the link party thing, or?
I have once. I would say 98% of my multiplayer has been SOS joints. Okay. And I don't know if this is going to be indicative of the launch experience or if it's something with just early access servers are they gave us a message like, you know, connectivity may be limited at times. Like the first time I went, I had to try like 6 or 7 times to get it to let me be in a single player online session just to send SOSs. So it kept being like, you're in offline mode. And I'm like, no, just put me in fucking lobby. And I had to just force it, and then it worked.
But as I was saying, the hunting experience I feel is definitely there. My experience with Gunlance has been phenomenal. Just having an absolute blast. But it's the only weapon that I played. So why don't you take me down the other weapons so that I get a bit of a broader scope?
Oh boy! All right. So let me just find I want to go in order of weapons here. So greatsword feels really good. Borderline broken at times because there's like some perfect block tech you can do now that's really different. So like at the start, for a while, I was playing greatsword very much like world greatsword, and you can still do that. Your TCS isn't nearly as strong because that damage has been normalized across your 3 charge slashes, but greatsword itself is really strong now, especially when you work in your perfect blocks. Longsword feels like a straight up.
What's the follow-up that you're doing to the perfect block? Does it go straight into true charge? No.
It's the tier below true charge, I believe. Okay, like you perfect block, you go strong charged, and then you can go into true charge. Longsword feels very similar to world, but just way better because we have a follow-up on Helm Splitter, which is obviously great. And then probably the big one, your special sheath EI, you don't lose meter if you whiff, and if you connect with it, you gain meter, which is just a net positive because in
it was like that in the beta, right?
Yeah, but it's still like I tried to go back after the beta. I was like, got the itch, and I went back to world longsword, and I was like, what the fuck is this? I missed that. I lose meter. This is bullshit. So longsword feels very good. I would say in terms of power, it's easily going to be one of the most powerful weapons. Like some of my fastest hunts have been longsword. Sword and shield is fucking cracked
because of the blocking feels really good, right?
The perfect blocking on sword and shield is near instantaneous because you don't have such high animation commitment. So you have like 100% uptime on certain skills, which are familiar from previous games that I can't talk about. Elemental works great with it. Physical works great with it. The wound break is one of the fastest in the game. And so you can like rip, see the wound happening, rip again, create the wound, whip up, knock them down, charge slash. Like I had one of I'll say this, the first elemental sword and shield set I made was my first sub 3 minute hunt against a late game monster. Yeah, it's fucking visceral. It's so good. Dual blades feel really good. I think some people are going to struggle with the fact that we are now spending our demon gauge constantly with it, but we do have that new super flashy combo. One of the things, there's some skills you can add into it that make it really good. I was talking to Gaijin because he's been doing a lot of dual blade stuff, but I've been really enjoying dual blade. So I made 5 elemental dual blade sets. I love elemental dual blade. It's the bee's knees, man. You just bah, 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 bah. Which on that note, elemental damage is so sexy in this game. The elemental effects, dude. Like if you have a lightning charge blade and you dump an SAED, it's like 5 Kieran lightnings that are just like coming down. You're like, oh, that looks fucking good. So like, and that's why I win Ellie switch X, because like,
is the damage worth it?
Yes, very worth it. Very good, very good. Like elemental switch, like a dragon Ellie switch axe. You're like the dragon element looks so fucking good. It's like a black and reddish cloud with like the red lightning streaks, and you do that discharge with the switch axe, and it's just like it's basically like you have Devil Joe's breath in your switch axe. It's just like so yeah, element in general looks amazing.
I kind of wish they had done elemental shelling, and we still didn't get it this time around.
So wild. Hammer felt good. I think it's one of the weapons I'm struggling the most with. Only because you need to, like, compared to a lot of weapons where your offset is near instant, hammer you need to build up to it.
Yeah.
So that takes a little more practice, and you're weaving in your mighty charge into a lot of combos. So like you can play hammer how you did in world, but if you grasp use of the offset and mighty charge, it's a significant improvement. Kind of how the greatsword, you need to work in the perfect guarding now. But it's funny, I had just a little anecdote about hammer. I had my kid, I was like, do you want to hunt some monsters? And he's like, yeah. I was like, all right, what weapon you want to use? And we are going through. He's like, I want the double swords. And so he did dual blades. And then I was like, all right, let's try something else. I was like, do you want the hammer? He's like, yeah, hammer, big bonk, big bonk. And I was like, all right, let's give you the hammer. And I had him, he actually did pretty well. I had him like fight like a Chotacabra. And then he was like, I want to fight a dragon. And I was like, all right, let's fight a dragon. And he just kept spamming the triangle with a Y combo. And in one hunt, little bro got more offsets than I think my entire time with hammer, because he just kept doing the basic combo. And I'm like watching him play, and I'm like, fuck, you really can offset just every goddamn attack. Like, this is crazy. He's just offsets. I'm just like, yeah, that's one way to do it, I guess. So hammer is a very solid spot. It will take an adjustment.
Yeah, I've noticed with hammer when I was playing it in the beta that I was like, man, I don't know how to follow up stuff. That's the thing that I always felt like, because in order to follow up, you're supposed to do like right trigger and then triangle and circle or something to go into spinning bludgeon a bunch of times. No.
You go into mighty charge. That's the one where you keep swinging it around and then he does big hit.
But that's after you charge it. I'm talking about like the follow up from other attacks. You can go into spinning bludgeon by pressing.
So there's a couple ways at that. When you finish any combo out, like a full triangle combo, or like so I never just start with triangle unless I'm just trying to get a quick offset. I usually would begin with a charge, and I either do like the first charge hit into the follow up, like the golf swing, and then you go hit, and then you have an upswing, and after the upswing you can go into your mighty smash. But so you can do that, or you can do it from the uppercut combo. The level 3 charge combo, you pretty much never do. If you ever hit level 3 charge, you might as well just go to mighty charge. But most combos, like the max pain combo, would be like doing your tier 1 or tier 2 combo. And then after upswing, you transition into a big bang. You build up to big bang tier 4, and then you go into a mighty, and then you smash with the mighty. So doing like your tier 3, where, you're going to just wing up the hammer and smash.
Yeah, you don't do that one.
Or finish the big bang. You'll never fully finish a big bang, because there's no reason to do the 5th big bang hit over a mighty charge, unless you're like, the monster is about to move and you can only get the attack out within the next half a second. You might as well mighty charge it. And then going into your split spinning bludgeon, you can use that to just like continue the loop, because that'll go into like the side smash or the swing or into the upswing. So you can also use that to chain into your offset. So it's a lot more dynamic than before. Like, I think hammer mains are going to probably have one of the larger adjustment periods just because of how much more fluidity the weapon has now, but it's very good.
Yeah.
Hunting horn feels like world hunting horn, but way more aggressive, since you can hit a wound in front load notes. You can echo bubble in front load notes. Like, I had hunts with I had one, I call it my healing horn, because it has health up small, health up large, a health regen bubble, and then the special on it instead of offset. You can either have offset, you can have I think it's resounding melody, which is kind of like Rise's finisher, so it's like just pure damage that's going out, or you have this like big heal where you toss up your horn and you play a big note that's like a mega potion heal for everyone around you. And so I called it my hunting horn, and I fought a monster just staring at my songs and going through the combos, never died, killed the monster in like 6 minutes, just spamming heals and beating on it. So horn is incredibly aggressive now. Lance post beta, Lance feels way better. The guard counters are better. The flow of the weapon, for some weird reason in the beta, it was better to go high poke, mid poke, high poke. I don't know why the mid poke was suddenly hitting more damage, but that's been fixed. So now it's high, and then you go into either your guard or your triple thrust.
Or the triple thrust.
Yeah. I don't remember if this was in the beta either, but there's a follow-up attack out of Absolute Guard. So, Absolute Guard,
I don't think you
almost never use that in World. Because I want to say the main advantage of it was it could block attacks from any angle, but usually you were going to get chunked. But now, instead of I'll go into a guard, I'll drop into Absolute Guard, and then as I take damage, the shield is building up, and there's something called like, it's like absolute retaliation or something. It's something retaliation, but you just do like a jumping triple thrust that's like doo, 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 and it does a massive amount of stagger. It's very visceral, very fun counterattack. It's still a simple weapon, but I think Lance mains are going to be happy with the changes that came.
But that's the thing that I always liked about the Lance was like, I just want to poke. I never liked the change that they did to Rise, where it's like, okay, so in Rise you want to do this slap thing. I was like, no, I don't want to do the slap.
And the slap and
then in Sunbreak it was the hop back and the jump back forward, and I was like, no, bro, I'm not a ballerina. I want to poke things and block and kill things. That's when I'm playing
the hunts I do with Lance, I'm nonstop poking unless I'm countering, or if there's like a big. Like an attack, this is my big super spam. I'm going to go into absolute guard, and then I'm about to hit him with the retaliation combo. And just, this dude's getting brained. He's getting smacked down on the floor. Gun Lance, as you already know, is amazing. You're a long Gun Lance person. I'm a wide Gun Lance person.
Actually, I haven't made up my mind. I haven't made up my mind because I think what is happening, because I haven't done the hard testing yet because I'm still just like preparing for the review and checking out a bunch of different stuff. But I'm going to start doing the hard testing soon. But I think what is happening is I thought that Long was going to the properties of Long, which says better Wormstake cannon. I thought that also applied to the Focus Strike.
I'm pretty sure
I don't think it does.
I'm going to test it as soon as we're done this podcast to confirm for you.
I don't know anymore because I'm seeing very similar numbers in the set that I've made between Long and normal. So I'm like, if it's like that.
So from the testing I did early on, my conclusion was that charge shelling and Wyvern fire wide is clear.
If you want to do charge shelling, you want to wide.
And wide, especially once you get load shells going, I could go 2 charge 3 shells, shoot. 2 charge 3 shells, shoot. So just 6 charge shells is enough to get back a whole Wyvern fire charge.
Yeah.
So you're Wyvern firing a lot, which is what drew me into wide. I'm like, I want to blow up shit. Normal feels like business as usual, except you have your new Wormstake burst.
The Wormstake.
You can obviously. Wormstake full burst, perfect guard into slam and burst. Normal, I think, objectively, is probably going to be the strongest just because you're going to get the most benefit out of the perfect block into the full slam bursts, and you can do that constantly. And Long, from the tests, felt, in terms of shelling, it was a little bit behind what I was getting with normal, but it felt like my slaps were hitting harder. Now, that could have been something to do with the elemental values of the dummy, but it felt like normal, or Long was more of like slap Lance and work in my Wormstakes.
I think it also
I play the least of.
I've played the whole game on Long because I was convinced that like, oh, it's got the better Wormstake cannon, better Focus Strike. I just want to Focus Strike everything and go crazy. And so I was focusing a lot on that, but it also just happened that the gun lance that I was using is also one that has the highest raw, I think. So
it could be why.
Yeah, that might be why that one just felt so good, because I was thrashing monsters left, right, and center. It was absolutely disgusting. And so today I was finally testing normal again. Wide is the one that I struggled with the most because of finding openings for charge shells. I was like,
I'm just doing them. I'm just in the monster's legs, letting it rip. I'm like, hit me if you want, bitch. You're getting shot. I don't care.
Yeah, I'm trying to play with a little bit more finesse, and
I don't know if wide innately has better like stagger or something, but like I would constantly stagger monsters with wide.
It's always had more stagger. That's why, like in World, I love the whole concept of just going up to the monster and going like, bang, bang, reload, bang, bang, reload. It's like nonstop, or sometimes bang, bang, poke, bang, reload. That's the way that I'd be playing. And so, yeah, it does have more stagger, particularly if you're charging those. They're going to have probably the highest stagger values out of anything except for the Wyvern Fire. Yeah.
The hardest part of wide is staying close enough to the monster where all of the charge shells and all the Wyvern Fire ticks are hitting. And it's very easy to like you do a Wyvern Fire, you get knocked back, monster gets knocked down, and then your follow-up, only part of those are hitting.
Yeah.
So I would like position my back against a wall where I'm like, it's all coming in, buddy.
The way you said that, it's all coming in.
Switch X, moving on from Ruri's rotten mind. I liked Switch X a lot.
Say it in a deep voice again, though.
It's all coming in, buddy. Is that the clip you want?
God damn.
Is that what you want for socials?
Yeah.
Switch axe feels good. We got the offset. Power axe is really easy to get to. The parry and sword mode is really strong. Element looks great on it. Full release slash is incredibly sexy, but I think switch axe still suffers from a bit of identity crisis, how it did in World, where it's called switch axe, but 90% of the time you're trying to
want to be sword. Yeah. I figured that would be.
And I mean, I don't.
In Iceborne, they actually did a good job with it because of the whole
with the change,
and all of that, and just the fact that you get more flinches, you get better part break if you're using the axe mode, so it would give you a reason. And in this one, I noticed in the beta, that's like they just want you in sword mode. That's pretty much it.
I mean, like you can still do all that with axe. It's just, especially with sword having like full release slash, like.
Yeah, full release slash is beast.
It fucking hurts. It hurts. And it's like you have basically built-in rocksteady while you're using it.
Yep.
So I'm like, this is coming out. You can hit me in the mouth. I don't care. I'm gonna.
I saw that in the preview. It was literally the first thing I tested, because when we were at the preview, I remember I even asked because they had told us like, the changes aren't in the preview. And then I go to the preview, and just out of curiosity, I'm like, let me equip the insect glaive, and it does the bounce. And I was like, what do you mean the changes aren't in? I'm bouncing. What do you mean? and then I go to the 2.6, because Eric's team, they're always doing like the videos on the stuff that is changing, because I forget about stuff all the time. I have the memory of an old man. I'm like, 2.6, tell me more things that have changed. Well, you have the hyper armor on the thing. Oh yeah, right. I go in. It's like it slams me dead in the face, and it doesn't even move. And I was like, okay. I was like, all right. Yeah. And then we do the lance, and I was like, the changes are in. So yeah, I was like, it just feels like that is a weapon now that kind of, again, I'm saying this from the outside. I didn't actually play it in the final game. I only played Gunlance. But it feels like it's more of a weapon that you build up to the full release, and then you full release.
Also,
kind of like your thing.
Yes, but full release is going to usually expend. So like you could do a zero-sum discharge, and then get back in and do a zero-sum discharge, and get back in and then do a full release.
Yeah.
And then get your gauge back up. So there's definitely a little bit of nuance, but it's certainly more sword focused, I think, from at least how I was playing it. Because, Elemental, I want my files popping off, which is going to be sword mode. Charge Blade feels as cracked as ever. Honestly, I don't want to say OP, but Charge Blade was like, you're not going to fucking move. You're going to sit on the ground, and I'm going to stagger you. You're getting up. No, you're not. Sit back down. No, what did I fucking tell you? Do I have to break your legs? Like, it was pretty bad.
They didn't change anything combo wise, right? So you're still doing the AED into the spinning thing into the SAED, right? Yeah. Okay.
Well, so
that
I'm not
Savage Axe.
I'm Savage Axing 90% of the time.
Okay.
So SAEDs now there's two main ways. Either you do an AED into an SAED.
Yeah.
Or, and what I used primarily was a block into an SAED. Doesn't even need to be a perfect card. Just block SAED.
Oh right, I forgot about that. But in one of my streams in the beta, people actually told me that it worked like that, and I was like, "What? You can block into SAED? What?" I went back to World to test that, and then I was like, "What? I thought you had to do like a perfect a guard point to do the thing. I'd completely forgotten that you
SAED,
can do that. Yeah.
And the window for it is very generous. So you can like
a lot of windows are very generous for you to do combos like
running past you. I can block, then fire it up, turn around, and release it on his ass.
Like in the case of a lot of the windows, I've noticed are very generous, because in the case of the Gunlance, for instance, you could do, how you have the faster wyvern fires, right? Whenever after you do a stake, it was to the point where sometimes I do like the fuck Jesus, my brain is so broken. I do the worm stake. No, I do the worm stake, and then after I do the worm stake, I'll reload, because for reasons I'll reload to have the worm stake ready again, and then I can still do a fast wyvern fire.
I wonder, I haven't tested it, but I wonder if you could wyvern fire dash forward second wyvern fire, or if it has to be immediately back to back.
No, you can wait. I don't think you can. I haven't tested it though. I will say I haven't tested it. But the other thing was also, for instance, for your combo for the full worm stake blast, you can do the first bit and you can wait a long time before you press the button again to go for the second one. So that's why I was like, yeah, they're very lenient with the linking of
with the combo
combos.
chaining. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, Charge Blade feels great. Insect Glaive, I like the changes. I would recommend you have one of these.
You are the captain of the Insect Glaive.
I am the captain. So there are so many fights in this game. Insect Glaive, I felt like a fucking god. Flying through the air, breaking monster parts, shattering wings and shit. And the new loop combo was, instead of in the day it would be like YYB, YYB, YYB. Fuck that. That shit is old and gone. Now I'm gonna do ideally triple Y, release a charged B, straight into triple Y, release a charged B, and I'm just gonna keep comboing this until the monster is down. If there's a wound, I do the second follow-up B with the rising slash, and then I vault over to where the wound is, I yoink the wound out, I shoot it. When I land, I will vault at him, start charging B, diving Wyvern onto his ass, go back into my combo. It is just nonstop abuse from Insect Glaive. But I would highly suggest you have a back button, because otherwise you're going to be like holding B with the edge of your thumb, or you're going to be doing a claw grip. If you have a controller with back buttons, it will immediately improve your Insect Glaive experience.
I'm so frustrated because like
it's or mouse and keyboard. If you're a mouse and keyboard player.
Just died. I was so disappointed with the ultimate, the fact that the trigger just died, and apparently it's a common thing. I was like, man, can't get any good controllers.
The crazier thing, dude. So after I got used to I bound B to that button, and I was hitting it constantly.
What controller was that you showed, by the way?
That's the Pro Series 2 Elite
for
Xbox Elite Series 2.
Yeah.
So anybody that's gonna buy these, don't buy the main one. The main one is like really expensive. They have something called the Series 2 Core. And it's just the controller with like the base accessories and no charger, and it's usually way cheaper. Sometimes you can get them on sale for like less than 100.
I'm trying to see if I can get another controller, I want to report on a different controller that I've never tried before, but that's still not a done deal yet, because it might involve like some dealings behind the scenes. We'll see how that pans out.
Well, I picked them up. Microsoft was having a sale, and so I just bought 2, and I got them for $110 each.
Yeah, but I will say
regulars are like $200.
I will say for even not even just for Insect Glaive. I remember that during the beta at some points I was even using that for some Gunlance combos to just make it easier for me to rotate the camera.
The other thing I've heard is
the back paddles.
If you have a Switch controller or a PS5 controller, you can enable gyro and use that to aim while you're hunting.
I tried that. I tried that in the beta, and it's like, I understand that for some people that's going to work, but for me it was too wonky. It was really weird, so I ended up.
Or mouse and keyboard users, as we talked about before, are just going to have a huge advantage.
They're going to have a massive advantage.
The funnier thing, so I started using it for IG, and then I slowly started realizing how many attacks actually just use B. Like my charge shelling, I can just hold that down and free aim the camera. Using my AED never-ending loop with the charge blade, I can just hold down B and keep pressing that and manually aim the camera. So now, like any action that uses that, it's ingrained to use that back button now.
Yeah, that's what I was saying, and this is the reason why I specifically made that focus video where I go like, every weapon whose attack does not have a directional input, the moment you are locked in an animation, you should be able to turn with a left stick. There's no reason not to do it. No, some people called me crazy, and it's like, no, you're crazy. There's no reason not to do it, and it would be a much superior way of controlling it. For some reason, they decided against doing that. And even for the Insect Glaive, I had the solution for a standard controller in the Insect Glaive, which is, it just involved like binding one action to R1. Like if you hold down on R1, you could do something, and it's like, that was it. And that would solve literally everything. And I was like,
well, if you hold R1, you get into your Kinset controls though.
No. Trust me. At the time, I thought it all out. It's not as simple.
I'd have to go back and watch it.
Yeah, no. But the solution that I had was perfect, and it involved literally rebinding one button. Just like rebinding one button, and it would solve all the problems. I remember because I had a bunch of people that play the Insect Glaive. They sent me like these really long texts like, here's the solution. And it was like an essay, and I was like, no, nobody's going to listen to this. I'm sorry.
No,
it's probably a good solution, but it's not going to work.
Play mouse and keyboard, or get a controller with a back button. That's it.
My solution was just like, listen, you just change this one little input thing, fixed literally everything about the weapon. But they were like, nope, we're not doing that. And I was like, damn it.
No, but I mean, I loved IG. I've been debating making 5 elemental IGs. I might. I'm not sure. Just because the element's so flashy now, I really like that Switch Axe get those big juicy elemental explosions and Charge Blade will. And dual blades I kind of did, because who wants to make a physical dual blade? Nobody wants to do that. So I might do elemental IGs. I'm undecided.
What else? We were at the Insect Glaive. What else?
Yeah, so light bowgun feels pretty good with Pierce and Rapid Fire and all that. I like the alternative to Wyvern Blast a lot. It's like sticky and slicing had a baby. And so it's called adhesive ammo, and you shoot it into the monster and then it just chills, and like you keep shooting it and shooting it and shooting it. And then eventually it like detonates, and it's like a mega slicing, like it's like, and the monster's like, my fucking face, and it falls over, and then you're like, you shoot it. And so LBG feels great. Bow feels pretty good. I'd say the lock on, it doesn't seem as slow as it looked in the preview they showed us.
And the first community feedback thing,
yeah, where it was like tick, tick. It's not that slow, but it is definitely slower than it was, because before it used to just be like, magic archer, go, and now you need to actually move the reticle around and get my lock-ons. It still feels good though, and especially once you start getting stamina skills for bow, it feels a lot better. But that's always been the case with bow. But overall, I liked bow. Heavy bowgun, on the other hand, rough. So there's a couple things with heavy bowgun. I was talking to Femto about this. He said elemental heavy bowgun is actually pretty solid. I haven't tested that myself. Normal heavy bowgun, since it now has default rapid fire, feels all right. Feels very basic Betty. I basically just I normal a bunch, and then I Wyvern Heart, and then normal a bunch, and then Wyvern Heart. So it was kind of interesting, and that's a big part of it now, is like your Wyvern Heart or your Wyvern Snipe. It's not just like a special, it's a core part of the weapon, and you're really going to weave back and forth between normal shooting and special shooting. So that certainly takes some adjustment. Spread heavy bow gunning, like the Age of Glutton, it's completely dead. It was taken out in a sack, set on fire, and beat to death. I have a spread heavy bow gun set up, and the damage is respectable, but the recoil is so bad. Like, you know the amount of like recoil and recovery you have after your second Wyvern Blast or Wyvern Fire. Imagine that after every fucking spread shot.
Oh God, bro! I always get hit after the second Wyvern Fire because of that every single time. Like you're in that super stylish animation. You got the gun lance all stretched out to the side, like and then the monster comes in and like slaps you across the head. It's just like, dumbass, look at you.
It's not good, dude.
There's nothing you can do.
As far as I know, there's no way to mitigate that recoil. So the days of Glutton are gone.
Oof.
Pierce, on the other hand, Pierce seems okay with HPG, but light bowgun has much better Pierce options, so there's really no reason to Pierce heavy bowgun. So normal and elemental seem like, for the most part, that's going to be the route people would go with HPG. But aside from that, I mean, it's not terrible. The working in the special ammo is kind of fun. Like, you can straight up do a build that's like, my job is to Wyvern Heart 90% of the time.
See, I actually like that. That's what I want. Yeah. I want the Wyvern Heart build.
You can do that. It'll be a little tricky to build it ideal. Like, fitting in special ammo boost is going to be kind of hard. But I mean, that's kind of what I'm doing with that one setup I have, the one horn, the spread horn. I'm just turning it into a Wyvern Heart, because it's one of those types of weapons where you have negative affinity but crazy high raw. So I'm like, screw it, you're a Wyvern Heart build now.
Yeah.
But overall, I mean, it'll take adjusting for people, but for the most part, I mean, I had fun playing with all the weapons. Even if HPG doesn't, even if spread is like dookie, there's still stuff to enjoy with the weapon. I will say, in terms of gunning, light bowgun felt way better just because of the mobility and how fast you can pop wounds, whereas heavy bowgun, you needed to like kneel down to shoot the wound, and that took you know, it's higher commitment. Like I want to pop a wound fast. I want to pop it, knock him down, and you have that higher commitment with heavy bowgun. So that's just the nature of light versus heavy. But personally, I felt light felt way better to play. But I'm not a huge, you know, I've always played light bowgun. I only dabble in heavy bowgun, so that might be it. But the people that I know that are bowgunning people, they have said, I would say things that are not as nice as what I have said. So I'll let people discover that on their own. I think that's the best note I could leave heavy bowgun on.
So, overall opinions, so that we can kind of like wrap up the non-spoilery portion of the podcast, and then I'm going to do a separate podcast with spoilers and stuff. But overall opinion, I would say game's a ton of fun. Visuals look good. Performance still needs work, like we talked about in greater detail earlier on. Audio-wise, phenomenal. Story, not going to land with everybody. Game structure, very different in the beginning. Gets a little bit more familiar towards the end. Hunting action is definitely there. Absolutely love it. The one thing that we didn't talk about, because we can't really get into detail too much on this one, is the end game. My opinion is there is obviously an end game, as there always is. I would say that it is a little bit more limited.
Just save it for the spoiler cast, because it's too limited in what we can even say.
It's too limited in what we can even say. But like, obviously they're going to be adding stuff with the title updates and all of that stuff. So we'll see how that pans out. But yeah, other than that, I don't know if there's anything else that you'd like to add.
I think that if I had to sum it up, I would say with the launch product is the most approachable Monster Hunter has ever been by far. I think it's going to draw in a lot of new audience. I think veterans, they won't be disappointed, but I think there's going to be a lot of raised eyebrows.
They're going to be hungry.
Certain choices.
I think veterans are going to be hungry. Yes.
But with what they have here, I think when this gets to like Master Rank, all title updates are out, finished, it's going to be the best fucking Monster Hunter experience that's ever been created.
Absolutely. Dude, I'm so excited to see more of it. And to actually get into
like
I want to get into a proper save. I want to get into a proper save. That's the thing. I want to actually craft all of the things that I didn't because I critical pathed it. I want to actually stop and smell the roses. I want to go slower because, like, again, it took me 55 hours to critical path. It would have taken me probably twice as much if I was taking my time doing stuff and do everything that I actually wanted to do.
And all the set building that gobbles up time.
The set building.
I'll tell you the feeling when I finally cleared out my wish list and then I just chucked everything else away. It was very freeing. Felt like a burden had been lifted. But that's spoiler cast discussion. So
yeah. So for now, we're gonna call this one here. You guys should be getting this one still before the game releases because I think everything that we talked about is still pretty much within embargo.
Yeah, I think we kept it kosher. Yeah.
So this should be before the release, and then we are going to give you another one fairly soon here in the channel. So if you guys enjoyed this, hit the like button, subscribe, bell notification icon, all of that jazz. See you guys in the next one. Stay strong, stay safe. Peace out.